On Thanksgiving, my children rejected me. What I revealed in an envelope was life-changing. Mary bustled around her modest kitchen, the scent of roasting turkey and cinnamon lace pie swirling like a warm hug. Normally, Thanksgiving was a day drenched in laughter, the kind that filled her small Midwestern home to the brim. But this year felt different. Her heart pounded with a mix of hope and dread as she prepared for the feast she had hosted for years, each dish a testament to the love and sacrifices that shaped her family. She remembered the laughter around the table, her children's faces sprinkled with flour as they helped her bake. But Sarah and Jake, now adults chasing their dreams, were growing distant, seemingly absorbed in lives that didn't include her. As the clock ticked closer to dinner, a sense of loneliness crept into her heart. She thought of the late nights she pulled to ensure they had every opportunity she had never had. At what cost? The gathering felt like an uphill battle now, and with every dish she set on the table, an echo of anticipation faded into silence. When her children finally arrived, the mood was prickly and tense. A chill hung in the air, punctuated by forced smiles and half-hearted small talk. Then the dam broke. In the heat of the moment, Sarah and Jake unleashed their frustrations, words like knives slicing through the room. "You never believed in us," Sarah exclaimed, her voice a mixture of hurt and anger. Jake chimed in, "You wanted us to succeed, but only on your terms." And just like that, the warmth turned into a storm. Mary felt tears prick her eyes, a tightness in her chest as their accusations spiraled into a full-blown argument. In a whirlwind of emotion, they stormed out, slamming the door behind them. The sound echoed through her heart, leaving her crushed and alone. The table was set, yet the joy of Thanksgiving had been devoured by their harsh words. Mary sat in an empty room, tears streaming down her cheeks. In her sorrow, she felt swallowed whole by despair. She sought solace in her photo albums, dust dancing in the air as she flipped through cherished moments of the past. But in the midst of this solitude, she stumbled across a dusty envelope nestled in the pages, a letter from her late father. Her heart raced as she unfolded it, revealing a secret she had never known: a piece of land inherited by him, meant for family, a legacy he dreamed of passing down. The words sparked a fire within her, and for the first time that day, a flicker of hope pierced through her despair. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the letter crumpled in her hand, Mary stared at the empty dining table where family love had once thrived. This discovery could bridge the distance growing between her and her children, but would it? Trapped between hope and fear, she realized that this inheritance symbolized more than land. It embodied the spirit of their family, the unity they had lost. Her breath came ragged as she contemplated her next steps. What if this was their last chance? The weight of the letter pressed against her heart, a reminder that every family deserves a second chance. With resolve stirring within her, she whispered, "I won't lose you both." Would this revelation be the key to reclaiming the warmth that once filled her home? Mary sat in the quiet of her kitchen, the aroma of leftover turkey hanging in the air like a fading ghost of family gatherings past. The old clock on the wall ticked steadily, punctuating her silence with reminders of time slipping away. She could hear the faint echo of laughter that once filled these walls, but today, all she could feel was the echo of her children's harsh words. Gazing at the letter from her father now crumpled tightly in her fist, she took a deep breath, determined to move beyond this heartache. The land wasn't just geographical. It was a symbol, a chance for rebirth, a glimmer of hope in a season that felt so dark. A plan began forming, one that had the potential to change everything. If I could just show them, she murmured to herself. A spark ignited in her chest, urging her to take action. They had rejected her, but perhaps she could win them back. Not through words alone, but by showing them a way to connect to their roots. That evening, she grabbed her phone and texted them simple words that meant the world. "Can we talk? There is something I want to share." With a deep breath, she hit send, half hoping, half dreading their response. Hours passed. The tick of the clock grew louder as her phone lay silent on the countertop. Just when she thought they might ignore her message, her heart skipped as her screen lit up with a notification. Sarah's name flashed. A mixture of hope and anxiety flooded her veins. "Where?" was all it said. Mary's fingers danced over the screen. "The old family cabin. It's important." She felt a rush of relief when Sarah replied, "Okay. When? Tomorrow afternoon?" There was a pause, so long that Mary felt the weight of uncertainty pressing against her. Finally, a simple reply came through. "Fine. We'll be there." The next day, as Mary drove to the cabin, a mixture of excitement and dread twined around her like a vine. It was a familiar route, one that brought back memories of summers spent laughing in the sun. The cabin stood proudly amidst the trees, a comforting relic of childhood that had weathered their family's storms. When her children arrived, their expressions were guarded. Sarah crossed her arms, while Jake shoved his hands deep into his pockets. Mary felt a wave of regret, wondering if they would ever see the love behind her actions, or if they just felt suffocated by the weight of expectations. "I know things have been rough," she began, her voice shaking slightly, "but I found something that I believe can help us. Can we go inside? Please?" The detachment in their eyes lingered, but they nodded, following her into the cabin. The familiar scent of pine and memories enveloped them, and for a moment, they all stood still in the dim light, taking it in. "Dad wanted this place to be a family legacy," she said, pulling out the letter she had tucked in her pocket. "He dreamed of passing it to all of us. I think it's time we honor that dream." Tension crackled in the air as Mary unfolded the letter, her hands trembling. This could mean a fresh start for us. Not just to remember the past, but to create new memories together." Jake glanced at Sarah, his brow furrowed in thought. "You think we can?" "It's up to us," Mary replied softly, courage giving weight to her words. "This is our chance to heal. But we need to work on it together." Sarah's expression softened, a flicker of understanding crossing her features. Mary held her breath, praying her children could feel her sincerity beneath the surface of hurt. Hope hung in the air, but would it be enough to mend what had been broken? As they stood in that cabin, she believed they were on the verge of something profound. Could the past ignite their future? The possibilities fluttered like leaves caught in the wind, and she took a step forward ready to bridge the gap. Would her family come together to reclaim their legacy, or would they walk away once more? The answer remained just out of reach, but she knew they were closer than ever before. The air felt thick with unspoken words as they stepped further into the cabin. Mary glanced around, taking in the sunlit corners that once sparkled with joy, but now felt heavy with a haunting silence. She could see Jake shifting his weight, the conflict in his eyes clear. Sarah's arms remained tightly crossed, as if she were trying to shield herself from the memories around them. "Why now?" Jake finally asked, his voice laced with skepticism. "Why do you think this will change anything?" Mary swallowed hard. She had expected the questions, but facing them was another matter entirely. "I want us to reclaim something lost. It's not just a piece of land. It's our history, our family. I believe it can help us heal and grow." Sarah uncrossed her arms slightly, a small shift that didn't go unnoticed. "You mean rebuild the past? We left that behind for a reason, Mom." The hurt lingered in her voice, echoing the wounds that had yet to heal. "No, not build the past," Mary replied, her heart racing, "but use it to forge a new path. To bring us back together. Don't you see? We have the chance to start fresh, to create new memories based on where we came from." Jake looked away, his jaw set tight. What if we don't want to? What if we don't care about the land or the history? Mary's heart sank at his words. She could feel the walls closing in, and she fought against the despair, determined to hold her ground. "But I do. And I know deep down you both do too. You just haven't let yourselves feel it. We need this." Folded quietly in her hand, the letter felt like a lifeline. With a deep breath, she raised it for them to see. "This is why I'm here to share this with you." She unfolded the parchment, her fingers tracing the familiar cursive, each word a pulse of hope. "I found this on a stack of old papers. It was Dad's last wish for us. A promise of the future, something he believed was worth fighting for." The words seemed to fill the space between them, heavy and poignant. Jake's eyes widened slightly, but he remained silent, almost torn. Sarah stepped closer, a flicker of curiosity breaking through her guarded demeanor. What does it say? Mary's voice softened as she read the words that still held such power. To my beloved children, may this land be a reminder of our bond, a gathering place for love and laughter, a home for new generations. The emotion threatened to crack her voice, but she pressed on. He believed in family and togetherness, in the lessons we could learn from the past. After she finished reading, the cabin stood quietly still. What felt like an eternity passed before Sarah quietly spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Why didn't you tell us about this? I didn't know how to, Mary admitted, tears pricking at the edges of her eyes. I was scared of how you'd react, terrified that all we'd carry was the hurt. She searched their faces, looking for a glimmer of understanding. But maybe we could shift that narrative, we could build something from this. Jake finally uncrossed his arms. Maybe. He hesitated. But what do you want us to do? Move here? Live in the past? The tension in the room felt like a tightly wound spring, ready to burst. Mary took a step closer, her heart pounding, as hope threaded through her words. I want us to come together to really talk about what this means for each of us. Let us not just brush it aside. As the weight of her plea settled, she felt a shift, a vulnerability that hung unspoken in the air. Could they find the strength to reclaim this legacy? A shadow of doubt crossed Sarah's face. What if we can't? Mary's heart ached for her children. Then let us figure it out together. No matter what. Can you give it that chance? The silence that followed felt louder than thunder. Hope battled against fear, the future uncertain but filled with glimmers of possibility. Just then the door swung open, the gentle wind catching the edges of the letter in Mary's hands, lifting it as if to join their fates. Would the seeds of this shared legacy take root in their hearts? Or were their wounds too deep to heal? The answer lay before them, undefined and waiting to be uncovered. Mary stood there, caught in the delicate web of uncertainty. Her heart beat loudly against her chest, echoing in the silence. She wanted to bridge the gap between them, but facing her children felt like navigating a minefield. Jake's stiff stance, Sarah's wary gaze, it was as if they were both trying to prepare for an emotional storm. The wind whistled through the cabin's cracks, carrying with it the scent of pine and old memories. They were surrounded by the ghosts of their past, reminders of laughter and joy mixed with the bitterness of family strife. Mary knew they needed to break that cycle, to find a way to weave joy back into the fabric of their lives. Can we just sit? She suggested, her voice quivering slightly. Can we take a moment and just breathe? Sarah shifted her weight, glancing at Jake. The unease was palpable, but a small sigh escaped Sarah's lips. I guess so, she murmured, uncrossing her arms but still standing a bit apart from them. Jake reluctantly nodded, planting himself on a worn-out chair, arms resting on his knees. There was tension in the air, and even the familiar creaks of the floorboards seemed to hold their breath, waiting. Mary chose a spot on the edge of the table, hands on her knees. This cabin, this place means more than just land to me. It was a part of our lives. We can't change the past, but we can make choices about our future. Mom, Jake interjected, a tinge of frustration coloring his words. I get that you want to reconnect, but this bringing us here feels like you're forcing us to relive everything. Why now? His voice was tense, sharp. Mary's heart sank, but she pressed on. Because I'm tired of avoiding what's real. We're still a family, no matter how broken we feel. Sarah tilted her head slightly. But what if we don't want to be a family? Each word she spoke felt like a carefully laid brick in a wall, building the distance between her and her mother. Mary took a breath, feeling the sting of those words. You still have a choice. We can start fresh. But only if we're willing to face the hurt. So what do you want us to do? Jake asked, each word heavy with skepticism. Let me share more from Dad's letter. She pulled it from the table, the paper crinkling softly in her grip. He believed in love. He believed in healing. He wanted us to be united, no matter the struggles. Did he know how hard it would be? Jake shot back, his voice rising for the first time. Did he think about the scars he left behind? Silence fell again, thick and suffocating. Mary felt tears prick at her eyes. I know it's been hard. I know I've made my mistakes. But my intention has always been to keep us together. Sarah looked out the window, her face almost unreadable. It just feels like you're trying to strengthen a bond that's already frayed. I'm trying to give us a chance, Mary pleaded. Can't you see? It's never too late to start putting pieces back together. We can build something new. Jake muttered, but at what cost? Mary's heart ached at that. She wished she could take away their pain, wipe the slate clean. But she knew deep down healing was a journey, a complicated, messy road, and they could either walk it together or let it divide them further. Then slowly Jake leaned back, folding his arms tightly again. Fine. But we need to talk it all out, everything. No holding back. Sarah nodded slowly, then glanced at Mary. We owe it to ourselves to be honest. A flicker of hope ignited in Mary's heart, warming her with the promise of possibility. Okay, let us start talking, she said, feeling the weight of years begin to shift ever so slightly. As they prepared to unravel layers of hurt and sorrow intertwined with love, a soft rustle came from outside, drawing their attention toward the golden beams of setting sun spilling through the cabin window. A new dawn was waiting. But just as they settled into this fragile moment, a loud commotion erupted outside, rousing suspicion and urgency. What had altered the calm? Would they face another upheaval that might tear down the tentative peace they were trying to build? Mary turned toward the window, her heart pounding as the noise outside escalated. A cacophony of voices, mixed with the sound of frantic steps on the wooden porch, shattered the quiet. It was an interruption she hadn't anticipated, but now it felt like a storm brewing, one that threatened to drown out the tentative conversations they had just started. Do you hear that? Jake asked, his face tightening with concern. Sarah moved closer to her brother, leaning toward the sound but still keeping a safe distance from Mary. It sounds serious, she said, her eyes wide. Grinding her teeth, Mary felt a sense of dread settle in. I'll go see what's happening, she said, her voice steady. You both stay here. Yes, right. Let us draw the line further, Jake replied sarcastically, but there was a flicker of worry in his tone. Ignoring his comment, Mary stepped outside, the gusty air slapping against her face. She squinted against the fading light as she navigated the porch, her heart racing with every step. The commotion grew louder, a mix of shouts mingled with laughter that felt discordant against their current tension. As she reached the edge of her property, a gathering of familiar faces came into view. Neighbors stood huddled together, whispering and pointing toward the edge of the forest. One of them, old Mr. Jenkins, caught her eye and hurried over. Mary, you'd better come see this, he urged, his age-worn voice trembling with excitement. What's going on? She asked, anxiety knotting in her stomach. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed from the woods. Mary instinctively glanced back toward the cabin, wondering if her children had heard it too. It's the deer. It must be in trouble, Mr. Jenkins said, moving closer as if to pull her away from the cabin's safety. You know how they get when startled. Pushing aside her uncertainty, Mary followed him into the trees, the underbrush crunching beneath her feet. The atmosphere shifted, filled now with an urgency that swallowed her doubts. As they reached a clearing, she saw it. A young deer wedged between fallen branches, struggling to free itself. A few neighbors were already gathering around, murmurs of concern coursing through the small crowd. Mary knelt down, instinctively reaching toward the frightened creature. It's okay, sweetheart, she whispered. You're going to be all right. Be careful. Jake's voice shouted from behind, making her turn. He and Sarah appeared in the clearing, breathless and wide-eyed. What if it panics? Sarah cautioned, her gaze darting between the deer and the onlookers. It's scared, just like we all are, Mary replied, determination settling in her chest. But we can't just let it suffer. She positioned herself calmly, hoping to show the deer that she meant no harm. Jake moved closer to her, his expression softening as he surveyed the scene. For the first time he seemed to understand their shared need to confront fear. Slowly he crept beside her, their shoulders brushing. Let us help it together, he suggested, and Mary felt warmth flooding through her. Maybe this was a beginning, a small act of connection that bridged the distance between them. With Sarah by their side, they worked together, easing away the branches, coaxing the deer gently. The creature slowly began to relax, finally breaking free, stumbling but unbroken. As it bounded away into the trees, a collective sigh of relief surged through the crowd. Mary turned to her children, her heart swelling with pride. See, she said softly. Sometimes we just need to face what scares us together. But before they could revel in the moment, the sound of a distant siren pierced the air, pulling them back into the harsh reality they had tried so hard to escape. What could that mean? The tension surged anew, and Mary felt a heaviness settle upon them. Would they still find solace in the bond they had just begun to mend? Or would this new distraction deepen their divide? Mary's heart raced as the wail of the siren faded, replaced by a thick silence that hung heavy in the air. She cast a quick glance at her children, noting the worry etched on Jake's face, the way Sarah's little hands trembled at her sides. The relief they had just shared diminished, swallowed by uncertainty. "Mom, what was that?" Jake's voice quivered slightly, his eyes darting toward the direction of the sound. "I don't know," Mary admitted, trying her best to mask her own fear with a calm exterior. "But we need to stay together." The remaining neighbors began to disperse, glancing around nervously. Old Mr. Jenkins stood nearby, his expression serious. "It's probably just a call for help, but the woods have been strange lately," he whispered, his voice barely above a hush. Mary instinctively felt that something wasn't right. Stories swirled in her mind about animals acting bizarrely, mysterious noises in the night, and strange sightings near the river. She pressed her lips together, the weight of their surroundings sinking in deeper. "Mom, let us go back home," Sarah said, her small frame retreating slightly as she glanced nervously over her shoulder. "Just a moment. Let us see if we can find out what's happening," Mary replied, trying to muster courage, not just for her children but for herself as well. She took a deep breath and led them back toward the road, curiosity wrestling with trepidation. As they stepped closer to the main street, Mary's eyes fell upon a police car parked haphazardly in front of their neighbor's house. The officer, a young man with an authoritative stance, spoke animatedly to a group of residents who had gathered. Their expressions were a mix of concern and fear. "Stay close," she instructed her children, and they nodded, moving in unison behind her. As they approached the scene, Mary's mind was racing. "What's happening?" she asked one of the officers, who turned to them with a serious expression. "There's been an incident at the river. Someone reported suspicious activity." "We're trying to gather information," he replied, glancing over his shoulder as if to catch sight of anyone running. Mary's stomach dropped. "Suspicious activity? The woods were supposed to be safe. Is it safe for us to be outside?" Jake inquired, his voice sharp with concern. The officer hesitated, then said, "For now, yes, but keep your doors locked. We advise everyone to stay vigilant." As he turned away to help another neighbor, Mary felt a knot in her chest tighten. What kind of danger lurked in the shadows now? With her children anxiously at her side, Mary made the painful choice to head back home. The sense of safety within their cabin felt like a refuge, yet that bitter edge of fear lingered. "Mom, what if it's something serious?" Sarah whispered as they neared the door, her wide eyes reflecting doubt. "I don't know, honey, but we'll get through it together," Mary said, her voice shaking but resolute. They entered the cabin, and her heart sank as she locked the door behind them. Once inside, the world outside felt miles away, but the tension was palpable. Mary glanced at her children, each lost in their own thoughts. She wanted to reassure them, but the unease had settled within her too. "Let us find a way to distract ourselves," she suggested, forcing a smile. But deep down, the nagging weight of uncertainty clung to her. The connection they had felt earlier seemed like a distant memory, replaced now by shadows of fear and doubt. In the silence, the phone rang sharply, breaking through the tension. With trembling fingers, Mary reached for it, her heart racing again. Who could it be? And what news did they bear? "Hello?" she answered cautiously, her breath hitching in her throat. "Mary, it's Hannah. We need to talk." The urgency in her friend's voice sent chills racing down her spine. What lay at the center of Hannah's urgency? Mary tightened her grip on the phone, the weight of the moments to follow stretching out endlessly before her. Would this revelation bring them closer together, or push them further apart? "Mary, I don't know how to say this, but you need to be careful. There's something happening in the woods." Hannah's voice trembled on the other end, causing Mary's heart to squeeze painfully. "What do you mean?" Mary's throat constricted. "Is everyone okay? It's not just the strange sounds. People are saying they've seen something unnatural. I thought it was just rumors at first, but there's more." Mary felt a cold clutch of fear twist around her heart as she glanced at her children, their faces still drawn tight with worry. She could feel the atmosphere of the cabin pressing down around them, and she fought to draw a breath. "Hannah, what are you talking about? The animals, they've been acting different. Like they're distressed. And last night, someone saw a figure, something lurking near the river where they reported the siren." The shadows in the room deepened as Mary listened, her mind racing. What was lurking in the woods? The stories she had dismissed, now creeping back to her, the tales of shadows that moved on their own. Whispers that weren't the wind. Hannah's voice pulled her from the spiraling thoughts. "You need to keep the kids close. Don't let them wander outside, even during the day. It's as if something is waking up in those woods." Mary's stomach twisted. "Are you sure?" "I wouldn't call if I wasn't," Hannah replied, a firm breath in her voice. "Just promise me you'll be careful. And don't trust anyone too quickly." "Promise. But I'll call you back if anything." Before she could finish, the line went dead. The silence in the cabin felt alarming, echoing the steady beating of her heart. "Mom?" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, apprehensive. "What's going on? Is it bad?" Mary bit her lip, struggling to find the right words. How could she tell them that there were things beyond their understanding? Shadows creeping closer, when she didn't even understand herself. "Just a misunderstanding. Let us turn on a movie, okay?" she replied, forcing a cheerfulness she didn't feel. "Something silly. Will it make the scared noises go away?" Sarah asked, her small face crinkling with doubt. "Absolutely," Mary said, a tight smile plastered on her face. She moved toward the television, turning it on with a quick flick of the remote. Cartoon antics filled the space, but the laughter of animated characters did little to lighten the thick tension between them. Mary felt a lump in her throat as she glanced back at her children, entranced by the screen yet uncertain. She wished for their innocence to shield them from the dark reality outside. The noises from the movie faded into the background as she tried to think. Was it possible that what Hannah had said was true? That they might be in more danger than she could imagine? Suddenly, a sharp noise from outside broke her thoughts. A rustling against the cabin, like something brushing against the walls. The sound made Mary jump, her heart pounding as she held her breath, straining to hear. "Mom, what was that?" Jake's voice rose in pitch, the fear mirrored in his eyes. Mary stood frozen, uncertainty clawing at her chest. What if their sanctuary wasn't as safe as she thought? What if the woods held secrets she didn't want to confront? Her breath quickened. "Stay here," she whispered, moving cautiously toward the window. She peered through the curtain, dread pooling in her stomach as the twilight shadows danced. Just then she saw a figure move, dark and indistinct in the fading light. Her heart raced at the thought of letting her fears guide her decision. What was she meant to do? The very air in the room shifted as Mary turned to face her children. "We need to talk about where we're headed next." Could revealing everything create a stronger bond, or tear their fragile world apart even more? The question hung heavy in the air, begging for an answer. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, the figure outside seemed to turn and fix its gaze on her. "Mom, what is happening?" Jake's whisper trembled as they both froze, locked in a stare with the unknown. Now she wondered, what would they choose to do next? Would they step into the lingering darkness or find a way to block it out? Mary's breath caught in her throat as she stared out into the gathering gloom. The figure shifted again, and she could almost make out the outline of what seemed like a person standing still watching them. Her mind raced. Was it friend or foe? What if it was one of the townsfolk, acting on the rumors? Or was it something else entirely, something that shouldn't exist? "Mom?" Jake's voice broke into her thoughts, pulling her back from the brink of panic. The innocent worry in his eyes twisted her heart. She needed to protect them, to give them answers that made sense, not fear that sapped their innocence. "Honey, I need you and Sarah to stay right here. I'll just go check what that noise was." Her voice was steadier than she felt, a shaky assurance meant to calm their fears. "Can't we come with you?" Sarah's small voice was a faint echo of bravery, but Mary shook her head. "No, I promise I'll be quick." The words felt hollow as they left her lips, but she needed to reassure them, needed them to believe she could keep them safe. Taking a steadying breath, Mary edged the door open, stepping out into the crisp night air. The woods loomed around her, dark and foreboding, But she couldn't let the fear hold her back now. She felt drawn to the figure she'd seen, an irresistible pull deep in her gut. The rustling noise had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence that made the hair on her arms stand on end. As she stepped into the dim light filtering from the cabin, she squinted to see more clearly. The figure was gone, but in the stillness, she sensed movement. The crack of a twig echoed louder than it should have. Mary took a cautious step back, ready to retreat. But then she caught a flicker of movement from the corner of her eye. "Is anyone there?" she called out, her voice a mix of challenge and tremor. A rustle answered her, then a low growl that reverberated through the air, sending icy tendrils of fear racing down her spine. She knew those woods held more than just trees and shadows. "Mom, come back." Jake's voice rang out from the cabin, the panic in his tone slicing through the tension like a knife. Mary's instincts kicked in, and she turned quickly, sprinting back toward the cabin. Her heart pounded, each beat echoing the fear gripping her. Whatever was lurking out here, it was no longer a story, no longer just a whisper on the wind. It felt real and dangerous. As she burst through the door, she threw the bolt, breathing heavily. The safety of the cabin wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but the chill of the reality outside lingered. She needed to act, to figure out what they were facing. "Mom!" Jake rushed toward her, searching her face as if trying to gauge her readiness to face whatever was coming. "What was it?" It's nothing. Just the wind." The lie felt heavy in her mouth, but she was desperate to shield them, at least for now. "Are we safe here?" Sarah's voice wavered, and the small girl clutched her brother's hand tightly. For tonight the words hung in the air, an unsteady promise. As they settled down again, the movie still flickered in the background, its bright colors contrasting the fear darkening their minds. Mary held her children tightly, wishing she could erase the anxiety radiating through them. She thought about calling Hannah back, but fear held her still. Then a faint sound echoed from outside, a low moan or howl, echoing the stories she'd heard as a child. The fear settled deeper in her bones, and she knew this was no coincidence. There was something out there, and it wanted something. "Mom, what if it comes here?" Jake whispered, his voice barely a soft tremor. Mary squeezed her children tightly, planting a kiss atop Sarah's head. "We'll face it together just like we always do." But deep down, as the night deepened, she wondered if that was enough. Would their bond be strong enough to withstand the unknown waiting outside? Just then, as hope battled with fear, the shadow reappeared at the window, its gaze locked on them once more. The realization crashed over her like a chill wave. Tonight would be a test of survival, and the woods were only just revealing their secrets. "Mom, it's back," Jake whispered again, eyes wide with terror. What could she do to protect them now? And what darkness lingered just beyond their reach? The shadow loomed larger against the window, its presence heavy and suffocating. Mary's heart raced wildly in her chest, instinct screaming at her to shield her children from whatever darkness was approaching. She turned her gaze to her children, their eyes wide, faces pale in the flickering light. Panic surged through her veins. "Jake, Sarah, go to the back room and stay quiet. No matter what happens, I need you to listen to me." Her voice came out firm, but inside, doubt clawed at her. She could hardly follow her own advice. What if this time the dark wasn't just an illusion or a tale spun to scare little kids? As their footsteps hurried toward the back room, she felt a wave of dread wash over her. Alone, she took a deep breath and moved toward the window, pulling the curtain aside just a fraction. The figure was still there, but now it seemed closer, almost tangible. Its outline morphed in the ambient light. Was it human? Or something far worse? "Who are you?" she called out, the tremor in her voice betraying her bravado. If they were indeed in danger, she needed answers, not just fear. The figure shifted again, but didn't respond. Instead, it bent low, as if studying the cabin with a quiet intensity. Mary's pulse quickened. Was it assessing them? Was it hunting? Suddenly, a loud crash from the woods outside broke the heavy silence, causing her to jump back from the window. She whipped around, eyes darting toward the back room where she'd sent her children. They hadn't made a sound, yet she could almost feel their fragile spirits, flickering like the dying embers of a fire. "Stay in there," she hushed, her heart torn as she pulled the door tight against the frame. The sounds continued, and with it, a rising sense of urgency. Whatever was out there, it could sense the family within. Mary forced herself to breathe, to center herself, refusing to yield to fear. She had to protect them no matter what. "Mom?" Jake's voice was a soft echo laced with fear. She turned back to the door, realizing they needed her reassurance more than ever. "I'm here, sweetie. Just stay quiet." Crouching down, she pressed her back against the door, listening intently. The growl from earlier returned, deeper and more menacing. It was no longer just the woods protesting against a chill night wind. This was something alive, animate. "Why don't you come out?" A voice boomed from outside, startling her. It was low, deep like thunder in the distance. "Show your faces." Mary's stomach twisted. It wasn't a gentle request. It was a command. Ignoring the voice felt impossible. Her instincts told her it was perilous to remain silent. Slowly, she lifted her head nearer to the window again, just enough to peer outside. Her breath caught. The shadow was transforming into a figure, taller than anything she had seen before, its features obscured by the night. Questions filled her mind. What did it want? Was it angry? Or was it lost? Mom Sarah's whisper broke her concentration, making Mary's heart clench. "She'll listen." Mary pressed her finger to her lips, eyes trained on the figure now pacing outside the cabin, its movements hypnotic. "Let us go," Jake yelled suddenly, his brave burst of words startling everyone. They had no idea what they were provoking. "Jake!" She hissed, panic rising, but it was too late. The figure froze and the air turned electric. "Ah, the little one has voice," the booming voice replied, dripping with a mocking tone. "You all thought you could hide? But secrets have a way of surfacing." Words slipped through Mary's mind like grains of sand through her fingers. What secrets? Darkness was creeping in on all sides. And so was the certainty that the childlike courage in her kids had just opened a door they couldn't close. With a final roar, the figure launched itself toward the cabin. Mary braced against the door, but it felt like a flimsy barrier. Whatever this was, it wouldn't be deterred so easily. "Stay close, my loves," she yelled, fear butting heads with fierce determination. As the door bowed beneath the force, Mary felt her heart sinking. No more lies, no more games. She must protect them, yet deep down, she wondered what awaited them on the other side of that door, lurking just beyond their reach. What shadows from the past were they about to confront? And could they survive the storm brewing at their doorstep? Mary's heart thudded in her chest as the door bowed under the dark figure's relentless assault. The air felt electric, crackling with tension, and dread coiled tightly around her. She pressed her back against the door, summoning every ounce of strength. "Mom!" Jake cried from the back room, worry etching his voice. "Stay where you are," Mary shouted, her voice fierce but trembling. She could not let fear seep into her children. They needed hope more than ever. But as the door quaked again, splintering wood in the seams, Mary felt the resolve weakening. It wasn't just her safety at stake, it was her whole family's. She forced her breath to steady, her instincts screaming that she had to act, to confront whatever shadow haunted them. "Show yourself," she called, her voice a mixture of courage and desperation. "What do you want?" A low, rumbling laughter echoed outside, sending a shiver racing down her spine. "You're brave, but bravery won't save you." With one final violent shove, the door burst open. Mary's heart raced as she lost her grip. She stumbled back but quickly regained her footing, ready to shield her children against whatever darkness lay ahead. But as the dust settled and the figure stepped into the cabin, Mary felt her breath hitch. The figure was human enough, but its eyes glowed, bright and piercing. It didn't carry malice but rather a deep-seated sorrow. "Enough!" A voice boomed, a surprising mixture of grief and authority wafting in the air. It was the entity that had disrupted their world. "You've stirred the spirits of the woods, drawn their attention with your pain." Mary stood frozen, tangling with the words that wrapped around her heart. "What do you know of our pain?" she dared to say, feeling the sting of anger mixed with fear. "Your family was fractured long before you set foot here. I've seen generations of scars embedded deep in these woods," the figure replied, stepping forward, its features slowly softening. "But healing, dear Mary, healing can only begin when the truth is faced." At that, Mary felt her chest tighten. What was it talking about? The hard truths, the very ones she had tried so desperately to shield them from? "Mom, can we leave?" Jake's voice quaked, pulling her focus back to her children. She turned to see the fear mirrored in Sarah's eyes, wide and glistening. "No," Mary said firmly, shaking her head. "We can't run from this." Then the figure raised a hand, motioning toward the woods. "Do not fear the shadows, they give light to understanding. You must gather your strength together. For healing does not come without discomfort." Mary's heart ached with the weight of those words, resonating within her. Sarah and Jake needed to gather together. And they needed to heal to unveil the truth about their past that had kept them locked in pain. "Your family has a legacy in these woods," the figure continued, now softer, more vulnerable. "They hold the keys to unity, to remember what it means to be together." With a deep breath, Mary stepped closer, the energy shifting. "What do you mean? What do we need to do?" "You must face your fears, confront the fractures," the figure urged gently. "Only then can the healing begin." Mary felt a swell of determination. Together then. No more hiding from the shadows. She turned to her children, who met her gaze hesitantly. "Are you with me?" she asked, her voice steady. Sarah took a deep breath, glancing back at Jake before nodding slowly. Think we can try." Jake followed suit, his resolve strengthening. "Yeah. Together." As the room brightened with a warm light from the window, illuminating their faces, the figure began to dissipate but left behind an invisible thread, one that wove between them, connecting their hearts with strength. "Remember," the voice echoed softly, lingering in the air. "The woods are a part of you, a reminder that love can heal what's been fractured." And just like that, in the quiet stillness of the cabin, as dawn began to break, a new understanding blossomed in their hearts. They didn't know what would lie ahead, but they were together, standing hand in hand, ready to face that uncertainty head-on. With the barriers shattered, they would uncover truths, share old scars, and forge a new path, one that would breathe life back into their family, no longer haunted by the past. As they stepped closer to the open door, sunlight streamed into the room, and Mary felt hope rekindle within her once more. The shadows might linger, but they would face them together, channeling their history into a new legacy, one rooted in love and unity. "Let us do this," she exclaimed, her heart racing with anticipation for the journey ahead. Because this was the moment they had all been waiting for, a chance to reclaim their family and build a future they never thought possible. Now it was your moment too. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this community grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending below. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support matters more than you know.